Welcome to the Stumbling Spirit, contemplations on the path of resilience. Whether you realize it or not, you are resilient. It's your birthright. As you take in your next breath, know this truth. It's not only about your capacity to overcome difficult situations, but it's about your courage to do the necessary work to heal, learn, grow, and move forward. What you gain is invaluable wisdom. And it's through these hard stumbles in life that we often discover a new purpose that aligns with our spirit. My name is Fabio da Silva Fernandez, Reiki Master, Mindfulness Coach, and Mystical Explorer. Join me weekly as the Stumbling Spirit podcast highlights the lives of extraordinary people like you, sharing transformative stories and beneficial practices of resilience to guide you on your wellness journey. You might have recently come across various social media ads showing people on mats rhythmically panting, followed by scenes of them sobbing and receiving emotional support with a gentle hand. Celebrity appeal has popularized this practice, which is part of a mindfulness industry worth billions of dollars. I'm talking about breathwork, one of the top wellness trends at the moment. This body-based approach is said to release and transform emotional trauma, relieve mental stress, and enhance general well-being. Jada Dana is a breathwork practitioner based in Toronto, and she's here to share her expertise and explain why this popular somatic practice is both healing and transformative. It's a pleasure to welcome Jada Dana to the show. Hi, Jada.
Hi.
So why don't we just get to the big question? What is breath work?
That is a big question. It is a very big practice in a very simple word called breath work. I mean, if you're to reverse the two that make up that word, it's essentially working your breath. And it's an ancient practice as well, referred to as pranayama. A lot of the breath work components can be seen in yogic practices. And then you have other versions that kind of fall into Wim Hof categories, holotropic categories, as you sort of referred to in your intro, which is more of that rapid breathing and to do with kind of the emotional traumatic healing process. But there are so many styles of breath work. And if I were to sum it up essentially in layman's term, it's working your breath. It's controlling your breathing, inhales and exhales, whether it's through the nose or through the mouth, to achieve certain goals and outcomes, along with sort of states of being. And a lot of it is linked to your nervous system.
I highlighted a couple of benefits, but I'm wondering whether we can dig deeper into the benefits of breath work. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, the benefits of breath work are so many. And again, it all depends on the style of breathing that you are engaging with. A lot of it has to do with your nervous system and your nervous system receiving that kind of almost reset feeling. So, whether it's your need to de stress, breathwork gives you a benefit in kind of relaxing and finding that sense of peace. Or if you want to energize your system and your body, a different style of breath work can also give you that outcome where you're feeling a lot more alert and focused and filled with energy.
You talked about it being an ancient practice, and you mentioned pranayama. And I'm wondering whether you can explore that a little bit deeper in terms of just the history of breath work.
Yes, from what I know that it's a practice that's been around for ages, likely 2000 years ago, even more. And a lot of it had to do with controlling your breathing to create a sense of heat and warmth in the body, and controlling your breathing as well when you wanted to reach different sort of elevations in your consciousness. So it's applied with meditation. And I mean, a lot of that has evolved. through our practice, through research, through understanding what happens on a cellular level when we take oxygen in at different rates and dispel the CO2 as well. But there is a spiritual side to breath work for sure. It has a very metaphysically healing aspect to it. And so it does allow a person through consistent practice, because the benefits are usually compounded, to achieve a state of transformation and one that is empowered. And I believe before we started understanding our autonomic nervous system through science, us people were simply kind of exploring and experimenting with our breath and discovering that it had certain effects on our body and on our states, and would develop practices around those experiences. Whereas today we see the positive impact and we can understand it more in scientific ways through neuroscience and simply through kind of just getting that biofeedback to understand what goes on in our body when we take control of our autonomic nervous system, which we know to be automatic, but we also, on the flip side, can have a hand or play a role in how it operates and how it responds to the environment. So you can build resilience through breath work.
I find this topic really interesting. So, I'm a mindfulness practitioner myself, but breath work, even though breath is fundamental to mindfulness meditation practice or just mindfulness in general, but breath work is not a part of my practice. However, the first time I did a breath work exercise, I saw a mandala. It appeared to me in my mind's eye and it was blue. And I had never experienced that before. And so you talked about the spiritual connection with breath work. So I'm wondering whether you could speak to that.
Yes. Well, if you think about it, when you are breathing without kind of the attention and focus put on your breathing, when you're just breathing throughout the day, your body is in its normal state and it's receiving as much oxygen as you're breathing into your body. And kind of that oxygen is going to the brain, it's going to other parts of your body, it's continuing the normal function throughout the day. When you do breath work, you are actively breathing in a much deeper way, consciously. So you are engaging your diaphragmatic sort of breathing and your abdominal breathing. And that is essentially bringing more oxygen to your brain as well. It's just bringing more oxygen to your body in general. And when you are continuing a certain pattern with your breath work in that deep way, things will happen in the regions of your brain. There's going to be activity, there's going to be a response, not only in your brain, but also your nervous system. And the parts of the brain that I've learned through this practice that get that sense of relief is your prefrontal cortex, depending on the style of breath work you do. And that prefrontal cortex is otherwise very much attached to how you operate when you are in a general state of awareness. So when that kind of gets that relief and almost takes a bit of a nap, let's say, there are other regions of your brain that become highlighted and that become a little activated because the prefrontal cortex is not kind of steering, let's say. And that prefrontal, again, is related to and connected to one's ego self, how they process, how they think, act, feel. It's that go, go, go mechanism of your mind. But then the other ones that come forward that, get center stage almost are your limbic system and your endocrine. So your emotions and your hormones. And a lot gets released through practice of breath work from what you've been storing in your feelings and your emotions, and all of that is a big journey of itself. And then I'm going to break it down again to your nervous system and how it responds to breath work. When you are engaging in that deep breathing and you're activating your parasympathetic side of your nervous system, you're activating your vagus nerve, which is located mostly behind your neck. It's that very powerful branch of your nervous system. What we receive is we're moving kind of out of that state of duality that we find in our brain, between left and right hemispheres that continually operate throughout the day, that kind of weigh your responses, your choices, and all of these things from this dual place. And they move gradually into another very strong center of your nervous system that is located behind your heart, and it's got 40,000 nerve endings. And it kind of becomes this centerpiece of making new decisions. And so we move from that dual to now a one kind of core branch. And so through breath work, you're moving almost out of the mind into the body naturally. And that term is used a lot, but here's kind of like a little bit of background to understand exactly what is happening as well in your body to get there. So you move out of your mind into your body, and your body has that very kind of soulful messaging. It has a core and deep, deep message that it wants to get through to you. And from these places, from the limbic system, from the endocrine system, from your heart region, you go into a deeper experience and you kind of journey through that lens and that perspective. And it's what adds to that spiritual experience, along with when you are breathing in different rhythms and you are kind of activating these parts of your body, you're also changing your state and your frequency, and you're moving into more of a theta state. And that in itself comes with what we would call more spiritual, more meditative experiences overall.
There is a wisdom in the body, and I do believe that we in this society, it's so easy to just get stuck in our heads and forget that we have a body and that, as you say, there's a message or messages that the body wants to send us, or even just recognizing that there's something that needs to be released within the body. And so I really appreciated you talking about the science behind breath work. I think that's really important, and tying that into the spiritual side of things as well. Why do you think, I mean, I might be answering my own question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why do you think breath work is so popular?
That's a great question. I can speak from my experience and what I've observed. I feel a lot of it kind of came back into our lives through Wim Hof. I feel that his method and his application lended itself so well to being captured on camera and becoming a great activity that everyone could practice even more during the lockdowns, because everyone was looking for ways to kind of engage in healthy outdoor activities that came with the effects of boosting your immune system. And I feel that that has been an influencer in the Western world's revisiting of breathwork. Because nowadays we're also seeing other kinds of breathwork that are really, really popularized. And that's the ones that again lend themselves really well to being captured because they come with these greater displays of reactions, like the crying, the shaking, the emotion behind it, the rapid breathing. That's another style altogether. I feel that that was a style that was very popular in the 80s. It's called holotropic. And nowadays you'll see a lot of practitioners renaming it into their own method, yet it's all the similar principles of quick styles of breathing for longer periods of time through your nose and likely through your mouth, accompanied with being in a setting with loud music. And I will say that that is a style. It isn't all the styles. There are so many other styles that are phenomenal that I also like bringing into my practice. They're fusion styles that are like applicable in a daily kind of way. Those ones that are captured online don't always necessarily prove to be the most beneficial in kind of daily practice or even weekly or self-guided ways. But yeah, I would say Wim Hof and holotropic really make a great scene.
You mentioned Wim Hof and holotropic. I was actually just reading about some controversy around holotropic and something called rebirthing, which is said to induce deep emotional experiences, but also cause what they call a healing crisis. And I guess the controversy is related to what they say is a lack of scientific evidence and that it might cause some trauma in the actual work itself. So I'm wondering whether you can talk about the controversy behind those styles of breath work. I want to get into the breath work that you do, but I just want to talk about the controversy first behind the holotropic and the rebirthing styles of breath work.
I feel that holotropic, has its place. It plays a specific role in the world of breath work, and it does come with benefits for sure. Of course, when applied appropriately. And I feel that holotropic in itself is a more intense, it's a more intense breathwork practice for sure. It is one that takes the body and the mind and your entire being through an extreme practice. It is extreme when you are putting yourself in a situation where you are breathing at a very rapid at times and deep rate of inhales and exhales through the nose and through the mouth. And the music is another side to the impact of the experience where there's usually often, I would say, louder music being played so that it kind of overwhelms your senses and it overrides your ability to rationally think through the experience, that you kind of surrender and succumb to everything going on. And the breathing itself usually lasts for it's about an hour, maybe a little more. And that is a lot. That's a lot for the body. So of course the body's going to show and kind of break down in certain ways. It will break down the usual structures and the walls that it had in place to keep things together. And this includes trauma because of also what is happening to the brain. This is a breathwork form that is engaging in micro hyperventilation for extended periods of time. It's not like for a minute or two, it's for a long period of time. And that brings the body to another state. It usually often does send near-death experience type of hormones through the body. So that's what the brain is receiving, like quick and powerful doses of oxygen, and the body is dispelling CO2, but it's slightly at a more shallow place because it's so rapid. Not everyone who hasn't practiced breath work, who has not developed their lung capacity and diaphragm along with their intercostals and their abdomen to breathe deeply at a rapid rate will likely engage in more shallow breathing, and this will have an effect on the brain. The prefrontal cortex will likely shut down. Those near-death experience type of hormones will be released. And that's why you see a lot of people kind of convulsing or going into a place where they have no control and they're shaking it out. And it's a big release. It's a big, great release, when it's properly applied. And if you've got the practitioners in place who help navigate a person through it to the end where they can come out of that extreme intensity feeling refreshed and relieved and lighter, that is great. Otherwise, a person, I'm assuming, who goes through that will likely feel a little bit lost, like what to do next. What was that? How do I process that? How do I place that? Where did that come from? They'll try their best to piece it together, but there's probably a lot there. And this is why I often feel that it's best for those who organize practices like this to have certain disclaimers or release forms that they send the practitioners, I mean, sorry, that they send the guests so the guests are aware, and likely have a doctor in the vicinity along with a therapist, someone whom people can go to make sense of it. Because I've heard of a lot of adverse reactions to it, including like physically adverse reactions. And it's a practice I wouldn't take lightly. And it's a practice I would not engage in often. And I don't think those things are shared a lot at the time. There's no, at least I haven't come across holotropic experiences that say, do this once a month, guided by a professional, and please check in, with a therapist if you're really, things in place to kind of really properly apply that practice to a deeper healing. Yeah, to deeper healing.
I'm really glad that you shared that. I'm wondering, is there anyone that should not do breath work?
Yes, for sure, women who are pregnant should really let their practitioner know before going into the session that they are pregnant, and usually they do. Others are individuals with cardiovascular issues and who are maybe compromised in breathing. Like anybody who has anything that's sensitive with their health or potentially chronic should let a practitioner know so the practitioner can kind of gauge how to apply the breathing rhythms to their experience. Because deep breathing practice can be overwhelming for some individuals. I would say also those who may be over the age of 65 or who notice that when they walk and especially go up the stairs, they're a little more out of breath. And this simply has to do with their lung capacity, unless it's something else that they can then let their practitioner know. But lung capacity naturally decreases in human bodies over time because it's connected to a lot of muscles, and we know how that goes. Again, since it is connected to muscles, that is where the working of your breath is important in specific ways, because just like you do and you engage in any workout for your own other muscles of your body, your legs, your arms, your abs, it's great to kind of keep that muscle health that support your respiratory regions so that you can maintain expanded lung capacity as you grow.
I just want to go back to the holotropic stuff and then I will leave it behind. But I just wanted to mention that although intriguing, the ads really unsettle me. I actually don't like seeing them. I don't like seeing people convulsing and the release of whatever trauma they're going through, although beneficial for them. It just feels like the ad is manipulative. That's how I feel.
I agree, and it's performative. I mean, it's not performative on the side of the guest who is going through the experience. It's performative of whomever is displaying it to kind of promote the practice. You can go through a calm breathwork practice and you go through an intrinsic experience. So extrinsically, you seem a lot more calm and peaceful. If you were to film someone in that state, I don't think it would translate. You'd kind of wonder, why are we staring at this person who's sitting, standing stilly with a slight smile on their face? Okay. Whereas the other style, when you go through more extreme forms of breath work, like holotropic, you see someone convulsing, you see someone crying, shouting, screaming, rolling around, whatever, being tended to by the practitioner savior who comes and puts their hand, like it lends itself more to being captured on camera and giving an effect and giving, translating a feeling that someone who doesn't know the practice or is not familiar with it will kind of be a little shocked by it and wonder and get curious or offended by it. It'll stir up a reaction in the viewer. And I think that is why it tends to be a popular practice, because there are a lot of people who don't know what breathwork might be about, who might assume it is because it's what they're seeing. And because it gets captured that way on camera, it also becomes marketed. And it's a great one to market for sure. It feels invasive, I find, because a lot of the people who go to these experiences are new to it. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what maybe their rights are. They are put in a brand new experience that's out of their comfort zone, and likely they will have a reaction to it because it's their first time, and first times are usually even more powerful. They're accompanied with a little more fear of the unknown, and that adds to it. So they're very vulnerable, and they think that being filmed is part of it, or they sign a waiver that says you're going to be filmed, you better be okay with it. And so what we then end up seeing, and especially if you're familiar with breath work or you've done it before, it feels a little invasive of a person's very highly private and personal journey. And you can see the trauma that they're expelling in that moment, and it's a lot. So I've seen some of those things before. Out of curiosity, it's popped up, but I just don't really find myself gravitating toward watching it, because I know that it's being used for the purpose of marketing a practice to gain something from others in a more transactional way, likely. And I'm not saying that every practitioner is operating this way. I'm sure there are tons of practitioners who operate with a set of, healthy morals and ethics. It's tough as well. When you are a breathwork practitioner, you want to be able to share what you do with others. And sometimes it might involve the experience of others for the awareness and the education of the viewers and the audiences who don't know it and want to get to know more. I'm just trying to kind of play devil's advocate, put myself in the shoes of a lot of those holotropic practitioners. I mean, I think that if I were doing it, I think there's also a way of filming it where you are more respectful, and a person watching that footage feels that sense of community and healing rather than, oh, I feel like I'm seeing a very awkward moment for that person. I'm not sure if they really genuinely would have wanted that to be on the screens for the whole public to see. So that's an interesting, ambiguous practice to showcase, I think. There's a lot of ambiguity around what is okay and what isn't.
Can you talk about your style of breathwork or styles of breathwork that you do?
Yes, my style is more of a fusion. I've developed a practice that, through me also practicing it regularly, and I've practiced many styles and I've learned the benefits of these many styles, and I've found what works and what can, be more beneficial when tweaked or when added with another style. This is what I mean by fusion. So we've brought in a few elements that really are effective together and developed a summary, almost like or an expanded experience for people to come and enjoy in a weekly kind of way. And this fusion practice is what I bring to, again, the weekly community-oriented sessions. They're open to everybody. They are accessible, and they are great to practice in a group setting, especially in person. We do it in the morning in this case, so that you get that nice kind of refreshed sense to start your day with. And then a lot of people who come out to these community sessions, they want to know more about how they can tailor it to practice it in a daily kind of way, and likely on their own, right before they go to work or first thing when they wake up. And I can't always be in everyone's home in the morning to run that session. So I tell them that, and this is regardless of me being able to be in that space with them or not. I think in general, a great practice in the morning is to take features of that fusion practice and to break it down and to apply it to, more 5-minute stretches of breath work or 10 minutes, and often to pair it with a bit of meditation afterward. And that fusion breath work that I guide can be customized so that it can fit into a self-guided model so a person can run it for themselves. Sometimes people have come in and they've recorded me. I'm trying to get around to it, but I find that recording myself in my own space, guiding that practice is so different than the state that I kind of connect to when I'm guiding it in person. And so we've had recently someone record it while I'm in that mode of just like guiding everybody, and we'll see how that goes. I'll maybe tweak it and then share it with people so that they can practice it on their own. But just to speak more about the fusion practice, it pulls in some ancient practices along with more modernly developed breath work. And it features different styles of breathing where we use our nose, we use our mouth as well, and we use both in one breath. And we kind of target different respiratory regions. Mainly, we go for the abdominal breathing so that we really get that kind of area of our body working. And the outcome is to create a sense of inner peace, a sense of inner enlightenment. Well, it's also a great practice that in general activates the gray matter area of our brain, especially when you practice it in regular ways, so that we can learn new habits, we can develop healthier new habits, and we can target that sense of resilience in an active way for our body to also envelop and embody what it is that we want to kind of create for ourselves moving forward. So I give that healthy reset to the nervous system, to the mind. I allow people to kind of navigate and gradually transition from the overthinking into the being. And then we often like to, a lot of the times, pair it with some meditation. So after the breathwork itself, everyone asks for a bit of an extended nap time, like an extended time to sit with it or to lie down with that state and explore. And I might chime in, I might guide and do some visualization, or we'll have just like silent, dedicated time to meditation, and I'll maybe give some prompts so that the mind is and the body is still aware. We don't drift off too much into sleep, but we stay more present.
What is the difference between breath work and mindfulness meditation?
Breath work and mindfulness meditation create similar states, I think at different rates. And the method that you get into that state differs. So with breath work, you're going to actively be breathing, and that has benefits in itself. When you're releasing the CO2, you're releasing the toxins. When you're breathing that oxygen and you're breathing it deeply, that's very healthy for your body to receive, and for your abdomen to sort of engage in that practice. So you're actively creating and changing your state of being. And it kind of gradually does take you to that meditative state after, your rounds of breathing or a dedicated time to it. I'd say about 15 minutes or so, or even 20 minutes of breath work feels like you've been meditating for 2 hours. And if or anyone has meditated for an extended period of time without doing breath work, you'll find that that process of getting to that very blissful state, that transition, that movement out of your mind and into your body is at a much slower rate. It's longer, it's extended. It takes a little more time to ease into it just jumping into a meditation and breathing at the same rhythm that you've been breathing at. Whereas breath work almost kickstarts it. It streamlines it. It advances it into a very deeply meditative and clear mental and physical state. And then you can get right into a deeper meditation right away. So I find that the combination really great. And I think that this is because breathing, again, does things to your brain, to your mind, and to your nervous system. And when these are clarified, when they are relaxed, when they receive that active reset, that conscious reset, they are more likely to flow into and to allow for a deeper sense of peace, stillness, meditation. Whereas when you are not doing breath work and you're simply getting into a meditation and sitting properly and breathing at the same rate that you'd been breathing, it might just take a little more time for your mind and your nervous system to really reach the place where you want it to get to when it activates that highly and deeply meditative state. Mhm.
I'm wondering whether you would be able to lead us in a short practice, if that's okay.
Sure. So eyes are closed, sitting on your sit bones. Let's bring our shoulders up to our ears, roll them back and down so that your chest feels nice and open and you're kind of just relieving yourself of any stress that you might have been holding on to around your shoulders, your neck, your jaw, and even your chest. And just focusing on that energy kind of moving downward throughout your body and grounding. And now we're going to bring our focus to our abdomen, where I'd like you to take a breath in through your nose and back out through your nose. And again, in through your nose and all the way down. And back out. And another inhale in through your nose, nice and deep as you kind of focus on expanding your lung capacity and your abdomen, and just let that air travel all the way down and back out. And we're just practicing deep breathing here. While we're breathing in through our nose all the way to our abdomen, focusing on keeping your shoulders relaxed. So we're not moving our shoulders up and down. We're keeping them level. And we're just focusing on the abdomen kind of expanding with our inhale and then going back with the exhale, kind of rising and falling. And now let's do an inhale for 2 seconds and back out for 2 through our nose. Let's try again in through the nose and back out through the nose. Again, in and out. Again, keep going. Good. Nice and deep. Inhale in and out. And let's do 5 more. In and back out. And in, release. Focusing on that quality of inhale in through your nose, all the way down and back out. Let's do 2 more. Let that oxygen go and travel all the way into your body. And 1 more in through the nose and back out. And now let's continue in through the nose, this time out through your mouth. Good. And in through the nose and out through the mouth. And in through the nose, out through the mouth. Keep going. We're going to do 7 more like this. In and out. In and out. Keep going in. Good. We've got 2 more. And 1 more like this. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Now let's keep the mouth open. Let's breathe in through the mouth. And back out. You're going to do kind of like an O sound with your mouth, or an O shape. And out. As if you're sipping the air through a straw. Letting it go all the way down and out. Good. Let's do 7 more. Keep going. Good. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one in through your mouth and back out. Now let's close the mouth. On that exhale, let's breathe in through our nose. Let's take an extra sip of air at the top. Hold here, and I want you to kind of visualize the air going up your spine to the top of your head. And when it reaches the top, let's exhale out. And at the base of the exhale, let's hold for 30 seconds. And I want you to focus on expansion, stillness, peace, slowing down. And let's inhale here. Draw that air back in through your nose. Hold it. We want that lung capacity to expand on this hold. And let's exhale it out. And we'll take a recovery inhale here through the nose. And back out. Good. And now let's do this again a little faster. Last round. Let's go in through the nose and back out. And again, in and out. Almost a second on each inhale and exhale. And let's go in, out, in, and release. And let go. Keep going. We've got 3 more. 2, 1. Keep going. Now inhale in through the nose and out through the mouth. Keep going. Let's build up that momentum a little bit. Power up the breath. Breathe in and let go. Remember, a second on each inhale and exhale. And we've got 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep the mouth open. Let's breathe in and out through the mouth like you're sipping through a straw. Keep going. Maintaining that nice, more rapid, yet deep rhythm with our breathing. And let's keep going. 3, 2, and last one. Breathe out, close your mouth. Let's breathe in through your nose. Take that extra sip of air at the top. Hold here. Now squeeze that air up your spine to the top of your head. You can visualize it going up. And once it's reached above your head, come around at your forehead. Let's exhale out now. And just release the air, let it move downward. And at the base of that exhale, let's hold here. Again, focusing on a sense of timelessness, relaxation, trusting in your body. And let's breathe in here. Great work. Breathe in. Hold at the top. And let's let go. Breathe out. Great work. And now let's take a nice recovery inhale here and continue with that nice deep breathing pattern. Okay, we're back.
Thank you, Jada.
You're welcome. There are more things I wanted to do, yet this will leave for now. It'll be a nice teaser.
It's definitely a nice teaser. And just for our listeners, I just wanted to say that that was a really great exercise in expanding my lung capacity. And I could also feel an opening in my rib cage as well. So that was really nice to do.
Good. Yes, that's a great one for definitely for your lung capacity, definitely for your abdominal breathing, so that you practice that and try and continue to breathe that way. And through the breath work, you kind of allow your cells to and your body to kind of embody the experience and understand what deep breathing feels like. So then you know when you might be engaging in shallow breathing and how and when to kind of reset that for yourself. And then in the pauses and in kind of visualizing the air going up so you bring that oxygen to your brain before going into an exhale breath hold. You're slowing down your heart rate on that exhale, and you're holding into your parasympathetic in a conscious way as well, giving your mind and your body a break, like a conscious state of stillness that is full of repair. And then breathe in again, just so that you can expand that lung capacity and hold at the top and kind of activate a sense of alertness and engage back into the different styles of breathing so that you can continue that positive effect.
To my listeners, what do you think about breath work? Have you tried it before? How has it helped you? I'd love to hear from you. Send me your comments on Instagram at The Stumbling Spirit. You have quite an eclectic education and career. You have a background in radio and television, and you moved into communications and design. You were a sailing instructor, and you were creating and selling your own art. So, what led you to breath work?
Yes, I initially got introduced to breath work about 10 or 15 years ago, a while ago, at a workshop. And it was the first time I had ever sat there and engaged in a breathing pattern and felt different in an educational kind of setting where I understood that we are doing this for a purpose and it has a lot of healing connected to it. And then I didn't think much, like I didn't, pursue it or anything. I didn't look for it in anything. I just thought, okay, it was part of the workshop. It was a component of it. Great. Then fast forward about 5 years ago, and I am doing a lot of breath work with groups of friends who've come from training with Wim Hof and also are top freediving instructors in Canada. And I really did not really factor that in at first. I thought, okay, cool. We're connected as friends. That must be things that they do and their passions. Let's hang out. all right, we're doing breath work. Oh my goodness, I'm starting to do breath work more and more. Oh my goodness, I'm doing it like very often. It's becoming a part of my lifestyle and my routine because it started feeling great and amazing. And it was at first scary, and I didn't understand why. And yet I knew there was benefit to it. And it was a whole unknown. And it felt so completely opposite to what I thought my passions were. It just felt so out of place, and yet I felt drawn to it organically without really questioning it too much. And then at one point, I tried to understand what the connection was for myself, why all of a sudden I was dedicating time to breath work when I could be dedicating it to other passions that I wanted to want to do, such as painting. I'm like, why breath work? Why is breath work showing up in my life so much? And I realized that it offered that state of flow, that sense of flow that I think I was missing, craving, wanting, and felt through my creative practices as well. And whenever I wasn't nurturing my creative practice, I found it in breathwork somehow. And then I really related the two. It was an aha moment one day. And I saw its place and its purpose in my life and how it was so intrinsically connected to everything that I do and how it could become a part, like a valuable part of all the things that I enjoy moving forward. It's like an important member of the family of passions and practices. So I saw that it wasn't taking away time from what I like to do. I saw that it was adding. It was adding to it, and it was adding to my evolution and my becoming and my ability to improve, to grow, to heal, to empower myself, to deepen my practice in sailing, in my career, in art, in everything. And then I thought, okay, it's time to learn it more professionally, become certified, see what that looks and feels like. And that way we can share these experiences and take others who are looking to receive the benefits of these experiences in the proper ways. And throughout my education and my experience, a lot has developed into the work that I bring to others today and I share with others, into my own practice, into understanding the world of breath work and how it's almost the bedrock of life and everything connected to it.
Breathwork is the bedrock of life and everything connected to it. That is such a powerful statement. And it rings true to me because breath is life. And we all breathe, whether we realize it or not. I mean, I will tell you, sometimes I catch myself holding my breath. I actually hold my breath a lot. I breathe a lot, but I find myself holding my breath a lot. And I know this is maybe TMI, but I have a habit when I'm in a grocery store. If I pass someone, I will hold my breath because I'm afraid to smell something I don't want to smell. I know that sounds awful, but I do this all the time.
Oh my goodness. You must have a strong olfactory. I don't blame you. If scent affects you, you will do what you need to do to survive through uncomfortable experiences. As long as you have that awareness that you're holding your breath, that's great. I think people tend to either breathe or not breathe and not be aware of it, and that's where it kind of falls into the oof, let's check in with that kind of territory. But thank you for confessing when you hold your breath.
I'm wondering if you could share more about your offerings.
Sure. I have kind of developed these offerings over years of bringing my breathwork practice to the public in consistent ways and have learned or have seen that at least our community of breath workers Really appreciate the community sessions where it's like a weekly check-in. And we do this on Saturday mornings. They start at 10 a.m. And in the summer and in the spring seasons or the warmer seasons, we like to do them outdoors because it's a wonderful experience to be kind of connected to nature sounds in natural ways. And in the cooler months, like fall and winter, we'll move indoors and we've got a nice kind of space, again, connected to a very healthy community in the city of Toronto. And then I have my corporate offerings. So this is quite active as well. And a lot of corporate clients reach out and they can be from varying backgrounds and industries and will tailor sessions built into their, wellness hour or their wellness day. A lot of them have wellness activities and events where they like offering breath work. And so I come either on location or we find a location, we create a tailored experience to that group of professionals. And when it comes to coaching it in other ways, I've applied it to my time coaching sailing, and in this case, an adult racing team in the city. And I've been coaching sailing. I've started in 2008 coaching sailing. So I've been coaching that for a while. And at first, it was mostly on water and on land theory and practice. And I can say ever since learning breathwork and becoming certified and teaching it, it became a wonderful element of my coaching kind of program for these sailing athletes. And I feel breathwork would serve itself to any athletic group very well, along with creatives. So when there are creatives, when there are artists, sometimes they reach out, they prefer one-on-one, more privately tailored sessions. So I offer that as well, one-on-one private sessions that work for any kind of person, any professional, any creative, any athlete. But yeah, this is simply to show that breathwork works in many kind of areas, in many ways, and we do our community sessions, we do our corporate sessions, we can do private group, private one-on-one. I've done online. I've also worked with first responders. And so there's many areas. Best to reach out and or join the open air sessions coming up that are more like light and community oriented and group like. So lots there.
I'm glad that you brought up the work that you do with organizations because when I saw that, I'm like, what is the application of breath work to businesses?
Yes, there's a lot. There's a lot to do with performance. So if you're wanting to improve your performance, improve your resilience under the loads of work some people experience, the stress, the pressure, and learn how to navigate in a healthy way and also even understand how you work. So it's very interesting. Sometimes people override their natural needs when a certain task comes in or a project deadline comes in at work. And it's a very interesting conversation to have with professionals to help them understand how they can almost apply themselves to their work. Because through breathing, we can understand how we work and either do certain tasks based on where we're at or kind of change our breathing to access different outcomes and then embody a state that we need to apply ourselves for a certain task that is being asked of us at work. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I think one of the challenges I have, and this is something I've been reflecting a very long time about in the mindfulness space, is that often corporations leverage mindfulness as a way to improve performance, but sometimes they don't really reflect on the work that they are placing on their employees and the expectations that they're placing on employees as well. So, my hope is in doing this kind of mindfulness work for organizations is that this is something that they would reflect on. And I'm wondering whether you can comment on whether there have been any outcomes as a result of your breath work where leaders have said, oh, I should have approached this a different way. I see this very differently now.
Yes, because a lot of the times when doing breathwork with corporate groups, it's not only the employees that are participating, it's oftentimes the managers, the CEOs as well, who of course they want to attend an exercise that gives them a healthy boost in a way. And a lot of times I think initially they reach out because they like to schedule in a guided practice that gives everyone that sense of de-stress, that sense of relief in that moment, and can help them kind of, work on the tasks throughout the rest of the day, the week, with a sense of relief and openness and relaxation. Yet, if there's a perpetual high level of stress in most of the employees, then of course I think it becomes an area where it's about the employer looking at what they're putting on or asking of their employees and how they can restructure that. So this is why when I do corporate sessions, I do like to speak to them about, listen, you're doing breath work right now to change your state. You're going to feel great. And you're going to get back into the office and do work the way you'd been doing it before. But maybe there's another conversation here where we can look at how best you might individually work, whether there's a rearranging of the order of the tasks you have to do, or whether it's a practice that you might want to integrate in your own way for yourself, where you get to do the breath work, to do this inner work, and just maintain that level of relaxation for yourself so you can achieve and accomplish what is being asked of you. Because a lot of it, I like to kind of discuss the nasal cycles, the left and right hemispheres, which ones become more activated, which ones you might be dominant in, what that says about how you excel at work, what areas are easier for you, what you might want to look into developing, what weaknesses you might want to strengthen. So it becomes a very interesting topic when it gets into corporate breath work, and there's simpler applications to it, and then of course more complex ones. So the simple one is me going saying, hey everyone, this is what we're doing today. It'll be half hour, an hour, and afterward you're going to feel great. Just remember to drink water and nourish yourself and be mindful about your deeper breathing. And then other times it turns into more of a program. Here, let's try this. Okay, and then we're going to check back in. And here we're going to learn more and we're going to get deeper with it. And it becomes a wonderful program for employees because work is what we do all the time. And a lot of the times we don't question, there's just so many things that a lot of people in the workforce do not question to do with our breath, our state of being, how our brain functions and operates, how our body responds to our environment. It's just not being questioned. It's just an automatic thing that everyone thinks we have a handle on, and we just move forward. But there's so much there.
Earlier, you talked about the benefits of breath work and you talked about the science, what's going on within the body, within the brain, and the spiritual connection that we can have during a breath work exercise. I'm wondering whether you have anything else to say in the form of a pitch to any of our listeners that are hearing this conversation right now about why they should try breath work for the first time.
I think that anyone can always start learning or relearning how to breathe properly. And you can truly start at any age, even if you're 101 years old, which is the age of someone who I taught and I took through breath work this past April. It was incredible. And I really kind of want to focus on that because what they showed me in response to the breathwork practice is that even at 101, a person can be open and welcome new levels of education around their breathing to continue living optimally, deeply, and connected to life. It is incredible. So I often think as well that breathwork is a great practice to start educating in kids for them to understand what this thing is that we engage with all the time and we don't question and is automatic and we kind of take for granted. But to understand the value and importance of your breathing and everything connected to it can genuinely likely transform your outlook in life, your experience in life, and how your response is to life, and all the things that you create connected to your breath and your being.
What does resilience mean to you?
It's a level and ability to overcome any potential challenge and come out of it with more grace, with more enlightenment, and a sense of empowerment. So you've learned through that process of overcoming the challenge and you've grown from it. And I think that's what builds resilience.
One of the things I've been examining all season is the relationship between resilience and survival, how they're similar and how they're different. And I'm wondering whether you have any thoughts about that.
Yes, I think that for sure, resilience and survival are different. They have various differences and also they can seem similar in a way. The way that my mind is seeing it for some reason is different parts of the nervous system. And I'm not sure if that's because of my connection to breathwork and my learning around breathwork and its connection to our nervous system. But as soon as you said survival, I thought of the fight, flight, freeze response that, we might give to a perceived threat. And that response is connected to that sympathetic side of the nervous system. And that sympathetic side of the nervous system, if you are engaged in it a lot, it usually means that a person might be shallow breathing. And that doesn't seem like the healthiest state to be in a prolonged kind of way. It's maybe helpful in an acute, very rapid response to a threat, to an actual threat. But I don't believe that it builds the tools in a person for them to create sustained, healthy habits for life-giving experiences moving forward. I feel that resilience almost connects to that parasympathetic side of the nervous system that is grounded and rooted in a more relaxed and present, fully present state to a potential threat or a challenge and is ready to kind of overcome it while using a deeper skill set in a way and really kind of more holistically overcome it and then come out of it continuing to practice healthier habits that are life-giving.
You mentioned breath work. Breath work is your life's work. What are your practices of resilience?
Well, I think that breath work as much of it's very calm and peaceful practice when I practice it in the mornings. Breathwork lends itself to being such an incredible self-transforming tool. So it kind of allows you to develop this sense of awareness around your life ability in a way, your energy, and allows you to kind of place or understand what you might have been doing that no longer works, what certain tools and skills you may want to develop and are developing that propel you forward. And this is a lovely, consistent, healthy, healing, and nourishing practice that is almost like a subtle practice that really creates a solid ground for your ability in resilience.
And so, what I'm hearing is that your fundamental practice of resilience is breath work, and it just feeds into everything else that you do in your life.
Yes, it's a fundamental practice. It connects to meditation that I find is a wonderful practice as well. If you want to go inwards and intrinsically or build your resilience. And outside of that, I guess other practices of resilience are more physical practices, keeping your body moving, stretching, doing somatic exercises, just exercise in general, biking, activities like sailing, socializing, putting yourself out there, figuring out what your comfort zones are and how you can comfortably navigate and expand them in a way.
How can people reach you if they want to contact you?
Well, there is the website, torontobreathwork.com. On there, there's an email, jade@torontobreathwork.com. I even have my number written there if you'd like to reach out via phone. We have Instagram. So my own social media is Jada Dana. And we also have a link to Toronto Breathwork. Yeah, it's all up there and should be rather easy. My name is spelled Jeyda Deyna.
Jada Dana is owner and practitioner at Toronto Breathwork. Jada, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I genuinely feel that there is such a beautiful presence and energy about you. And I'm so glad that you were the one that I was able to explore the topic of breath work with. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so delighted and also grateful that you reached out. So thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Stumbling Spirit, Contemplations on the Path of Resilience. This is Fabio da Silva Fernandez. Join me again next week for another episode of transformative stories and beneficial practices to guide you on your wellness journey. If you wish, you can follow and DM me on Instagram at The Stumbling Spirit. Until next time, take a deep breath and another step forward on your path of resilience.